5 minutes ago, after Pope Leo XIV announces new role for Robert Sarah, he's humiliated for it. In the Vatican's halls, silence speaks louder than words. When Pope Leo XIV stays quiet on a matter, everyone knows he's listening closely, discerning carefully. That's exactly what happened with Cardinal Robert Sarah, one of the Church's boldest, most respected, and at times controversial voices in recent decades. Since Leo XIV's election in 2025, the Catholic world turned its eyes to him with an unspoken question. What place will Sarah have in this new papacy? Weeks passed with no answers. No official statement mentioned the African cardinal. Some whispered he'd be sidelined, forgotten. Others, more pessimistic, said his time in the Curia was over. But those who know God's ways held a different certainty. The Pope doesn't rush. He waits, prays, listens, and when he decides, it's because the time is right. Before we go on, subscribe to the channel if you're truly a devout Christian. Leave a comment with your city and name so we can pray for your life together. And the moment came. Just 5 minutes ago, the Vatican released a statement that stunned the world. Cardinal Robert Sarah was appointed by Pope Leo XIV as President of the Commission for Liturgical and Spiritual Discernment in the third millennium. The news came without fanfare, no grand ceremony, just a brief sentence in the Vatican's official bulletin. But for those who grasp what's at stake, that sentence was like thunder. It wasn't just an appointment. It was a sign, a shift, a clear message that Leo XIV, with his serene and deeply spiritual style, is ready to make bold choices. What does this commission mean? At first glance, the name might seem technical, even bureaucratic. Commission for Liturgical and Spiritual Discernment in the Third Millennium. Some might think it's just another committee, a study group lost in the Vatican's maze. But don't be fooled. Those who read between the lines knew instantly. This is far bigger. It's a mission to rekindle the Church's soul, to restore what many faithful feel has been lost. The sense of the sacred, the silence that links the soul to God, the liturgy that's not just ritual, but an encounter with eternity. And to lead this mission, the Pope chose Robert Sarah, a man who for many embodies unshakable faith. Sarah is no ordinary cardinal. He's a figure who stirs strong emotions. For millions of Catholics, especially in Africa and conservative communities worldwide, he's a hero, a pastor who speaks clearly, fearlessly about the need to return to faith's roots. His books, like The Power of Silence and God or Nothing, are read in seminaries, monasteries, and parishes, a beacon in times of confusion. But for others, Sarah is unsettling. His firmness, his defense of tradition, his refusal to bow to modern trends have drawn criticism. Some call him rigid, ultra-conservative. Others, more unjustly, try to diminish him for his humble origins, his black skin, his story that began in a poor village in Guinea. Yet Leo XIV saw beyond labels. He didn't see Sarah as a rival, a conservative, or a progressive. He saw a brother in faith, a guardian of the sacred, a man who lives what he preaches. By calling him to this mission, the Pope sends a powerful message. The Church needs shepherds who aren't afraid to speak truth, but do so with humility, love, and knees bent before God. Sarah's choice isn't a political move to please a group. It's an act of discernment, a bet on the eternal. But not everyone in the Vatican is pleased. Behind closed doors, murmurs of discontent have begun. Some believe Sarah isn't the right man, that his vision is too traditional, that his leadership might divide the Church. And among these critics, one name stands out: Cardinal Giovanni Moretti, a powerful Italian who, as we'll see, is willing to do anything to stop Sarah from taking this role. What he doesn't know is that Pope Leo XIV is about to stun everyone with a gesture no one expected. As the Catholic world digests the news, one thing is clear: Something big is starting. Sarah's appointment isn't just a role, it's a call, a seed planted in the church's heart. And like all seeds, it may seem small now, but its fruits promise to shape the faith's course in the 21st century. The shadow of envy in the Vatican. The news of Robert Serra's appointment hit the Vatican like a thunderbolt, but not all clapped. While many saw the choice as a sign of hope, others met it with suspicion, or worse. At the heart of this resistance was Cardinal Giovanni Moretti, a 68-year-old Italian known for his political skill and vast network of allies. Moretti was a master at moving the pieces of the ecclesial chessboard. He always saw himself as the right man to lead any major Vatican initiative. When he learned Leo XIV had chosen Serra to head the new commission, his reaction was sheer fury. Moretti couldn't accept that the Pope favored an African cardinal, born in a remote Guinean village, over him, a Roman by birth, educated at Europe's finest universities. To Moretti, Serra's selection was a personal affront. He believed the church needed a sophisticated leader, someone who grasped the modern world's complexities, who could handle the media and please progressive factions. Serra, with his simplicity, his call for silence, and his doctrinal firmness, was everything Moretti scorned. But there was something darker in Moretti's attitude: racism. In private meetings with other cardinals, he didn't hide his disdain. "How can a man from an African village lead such a crucial mission?" he said at a dinner with allies. "The church needs someone with presence, with pedigree, not a shepherd who looks like he stepped out of a savannah." The words, spoken with a cynical smile, shocked some present, but others laughed, eager to please the powerful cardinal. Moretti went further. "His skin is already a problem. Who'll take an African seriously in charge of something this big?" The blatant racism in his words was undeniable, but Moretti didn't care. He was convinced he could sabotage Serra's appointment. In the days that followed, Moretti launched his campaign. He spread rumors among cardinals, suggesting Serra lacked the intellectual capacity for the role. "He's a mystic, not a leader," he sneered. "His vision is narrow, provincial. The church needs someone global, not stuck in the past." Moretti also tried to sway bishops and journalists, planting stories in the Catholic press questioning the Pope's choice. An anonymous article, clearly inspired by him, appeared on an Italian site, hinting Serra's appointment was a populist gesture to appease Africans, but would soon fail for his lack of strategic vision. Meanwhile, Serra stayed silent. A priest friend, overhearing Moretti's remarks, warned him of the plot. Serra listened calmly, his face unchanged. "If God wants me here, I'll be here," he said. "If not, let his will be done." Instead of answering the taunts, he went to his small Vatican chapel, knelt before the Blessed Sacrament, and prayed. His humility was his greatest weapon, but Moretti, blinded by envy, didn't see he was facing a man who fought not with worldly tools. Confident, Moretti decided to strike a final blow. He requested a private audience with Leo XIV, certain he could persuade the Pope to reconsider. In the meeting room, he used his most diplomatic tone. "Holy Father, with all respect, Cardinal Serra is unfit for this mission. He comes from a very simple, very different context. The Church needs someone who understands the modern world with a global vision." The Pope listened in silence, his face serene. Emboldened, Moretti pressed on. Besides, his background, well, it may not inspire trust in all corners of the Church. Leo XIV raised his eyes, and something in his gaze made Moretti falter. "Speak plainly, Cardinal Moretti," the Pope said, his voice calm but firm. Moretti stammered but persisted. "Africa isn't Rome, Holy Father. Leadership demands a certain cultural refinement." The Pope sat silent for a long moment, staring at the cross on his desk. Then he replied, "Cardinal Moretti, the church isn't an elite club. It's God's house, and God chooses whom he wills, not whom we think seems fit." Moretti left the audience red-faced, humiliated, but not ready to give up. He believed more pressure could turn the tide. Little did he know, Leo XIV had seen through his intentions. The Pope, with his pastoral insight, knew Moretti's envy and prejudice weren't just an attack on Sarah, but a barrier to the Church's mission, and he was about to take a stand that would shock the Vatican and the world. Robert Serra's mission, restoring the Church's soul. While Moretti's schemes simmered behind the scenes, Robert Serra began the mission the Pope entrusted to him. The Commission for Liturgical and Spiritual Discernment in the Third Millennium wasn't a post of prestige or power. It was a spiritual duty, a call to reignite faith's fire in a world that, for many, seems to have forgotten the sacred. To grasp why Leo XIV chose Sarah, you must know his story, a journey marked by the cross, humility, and a faith that withstood the greatest trials. Robert Serra was born in 1945 in a humble village called Urus, Guinea. His childhood was simple, almost primitive. There was no electricity, no running water. His mother, a woman of deep faith, taught him to pray before he could read. "God is in the silence," she'd say, pointing to the starry sky. Those words etched themselves in young Sarah's heart. At 11, he entered a minor seminary where he found his calling. But life in Guinea was hard. In the 1960s, the country languished under Sékou Touré's dictatorship, which persecuted Christians and pushed atheistic socialism. As a young priest, Serra faced threats, arrests, and humiliations. He never yielded. "The cross is the Christian's path," he said, with a calm that disarmed his foes. Do you believe Robert Serra is ready for this great mission? Share your opinion in the comments. His courage caught the Vatican's eye. At 34, he was named Archbishop of Conakry, becoming Africa's youngest bishop. Under his leadership, Guinea's church thrived despite persecution. He built schools, aided the poor, and defended the faith with inspiring clarity. Later, he studied theology in Rome and Jerusalem, deepening his spirituality. In 2001, John Paul II called him to the Curia, and in 2010, Benedict XVI made him a cardinal. As prefect of the Congregation for Divine Worship, Serra championed the liturgy as the Church's heart, insisting it's not a show, but a mystery. His books, like The Power of Silence, became a guide for those seeking deeper faith. Now, at 80, Serra could have retired, living quietly in his homeland. But Leo XIV saw something unique, a man who seeks not power, but God. The new Commission's mission is clear: help the Church rediscover silence, reverence, and Christ's centrality in the liturgy. "We don't want to go back," Serra said. At his first meeting with the Commission's 10 members, theologians, mystics, laypeople, and religious from 5 continents. "We want the liturgy to be the door to eternity, as it always was." The work began humbly. Instead of issuing decrees, the Commission sent letters to dioceses worldwide, asking for testimonies. How is the liturgy lived in your communities? What do the faithful feel? What's missing? Serra stressed the Commission doesn't aim to impose rules. "It's not about aesthetics but truth," he explained. One early proposal was to restore silence after communion, a moment often disrupted by songs or announcements. "That silence is where God speaks," he said. "Without it, we lose the miracle." Serra also wants to support young priests, many of whom have rediscovered traditional liturgy's beauty but feel misunderstood. "They're a sign of the Spirit," he said. "They want to pray. They want the sacred. The Church must embrace them." The Commission plans to visit communities, hear bishops, consult mystics, and learn from the poor. "The poor know God on their knees," Serra said. "They have much to teach us." Meanwhile, Moretti kept up his campaign against Sarah, spreading rumors the commission would fail. But Sarah stayed focused. In a private homily, he said, "The world's noise keeps us from hearing God. Silence is the language of his love." Those words, echoing his books, are his mission's core. He doesn't want to change the church with decrees, but with hearts, open to mystery, the gesture that shocked the Vatican. Tension in the Vatican grew. Moretti, frustrated by his audience with the Pope, doubled down on discrediting Sarah. He held secret meetings with cardinals, suggesting Sarah's appointment was a mistake that would weaken the church. "We need someone with a global vision, not an African stuck in the past," he repeated, hiding no prejudice. Some cardinals, fearing Moretti's influence, began doubting the Pope's choice. Others, loyal to Leo XIV, defended Sarah, but the mood was divisive. Then came the moment no one expected. Leo XIII called an extraordinary meeting with the Roman Curia. The room was packed, cardinals, bishops, congregation leaders, all eager to hear the Pope. Moretti, in the front row, wore a confident smile. He believed the Pope, under pressure, would adjust the commission, perhaps curbing Sarah's role. But what happened changed everything. Leo XIV entered calmly, with Robert Sarah at his side, holding only a small crucifix. The Pope called for silence and spoke. "My brothers, the Church faces a time of trial, but God gives us shepherds, not to shine, but to serve. Today, I reaffirm my trust in Cardinal Robert Sarah, to whom I entrusted the commission for liturgical and spiritual discernment." The room fell utterly silent. Moretti, sensing the ground slip, gripped his hands tightly. Then came the gesture that stunned all. The Pope turned to Sarah and said, "Cardinal Sarah, your life is a witness. You faced persecution, bore the cross, lived God's silence. It's no accident you're here. I want all to know, your mission isn't just to lead this commission, it's to show the Church that God's power shines in humility, not arrogance." Then the Pope did the unprecedented. He removed his own pastoral ring, a symbol of his authority, and placed it briefly on Sarah's finger. "This ring isn't mine, it's Christ's," he said, "and today I place it on you as a sign your mission is Christ's mission." The room erupted in applause, but also tears. Cardinals who once doubted now looked at Sarah with respect. Some, moved, stood to embrace him. Moretti, pale, sat frozen. He hadn't expected such support. The Pope's gesture not only affirmed Sarah, but exposed, without naming, the envy and prejudice of those who tried to belittle him. It was a lesson in humility for all, especially Moretti, who left silently, his influence shaken. Sarah, tears in his eyes, tried to return the ring, but Leo XIV refused. "Keep it until the meeting's end," he said, smiling. "It's a reminder you don't bear this mission alone." That moment became historic, one of Leo XIV's most powerful acts, a pope who rules with heart, not political schemes. He showed the world the Church bows not to prejudice or ambition, but only to God. The global impact and Sarah's legacy. The news of Sarah's appointment, and especially the Pope's ring gesture, spread worldwide like lightning. In Guinea, churches filled with faithful who saw Sarah as a son honoring their land. In Conakry, a prayer vigil drew thousands, singing hymns of thanks. "He's one of us," said an elderly woman clutching a rosary. "God chose him to show. The poor have a voice." Young African seminarians reading Sarah's books in secret felt validated. "He came from where we come," said a 22-year-old seminarian. "Now the world sees God doesn't choose by color or power." In Europe, Catholic communities hailed the appointment as a sign of hope. In parishes in Rome, Paris and Madrid, priests began adding silence after communion, inspired by Sarah. In London, youths held a retreat to study the power of silence, sharing excerpts online. In the US, the news spurred more reverent masses, with faithful rediscovering adoration's beauty. A cloistered nun in Italy wrote to the Vatican, "Cardinal Sarah is a gift. He reminds us silence isn't empty, it's where God speaks." In Asia, the appointment resonated too. In Manila, Philippines, local bishops planned liturgy study groups based on Sarah's ideas. In Japan, a small Catholic community started quieter masses, following the Commission's lead. Even in Australia, remote parishes reported more Eucharistic adorations inspired by Sarah's message. But not all welcomed the news warmly. Progressive church factions, especially in Germany, criticized the appointment as a step back. They saw Sarah as rigid, tied to the past. Moretti, even after his humiliation, tried to keep influence, spreading rumors the Commission would divide the church. But his words had little impact. The Pope's gesture spoke louder, and most faithful saw Sarah as a pastor, not a politician. Besides, Commission's fruits began to show. In a Brazilian parish, a young priest inspired by Sarah began celebrating Mass with more reverence. "I thought I had to entertain people," he confessed. "Now I see they want God." In a Nigerian diocese, a bishop added silence to all masses, noting the faithful prayed with new fervor. In a French monastery, nuns wrote to Sarah, thanking him, "Your words gave us courage to live silence like never before." Pope Leo XIV, true to his reserved style, said little about the appointment. At a missionary audience, he said, "Church that doesn't return to the essential tires with the urgent. The essential is the eternal." Those words sum up his vision. A church that doesn't chase the world, but kneels before God. And Sarah is the perfect man for this mission, for he seeks not glory, only fidelity. Meanwhile, Moretti, shaken by the Pope's gesture, retreated to his diocese. They say he spends more time in prayer, perhaps learning his lesson. But in the Church's heart, what matters is Sarah is where God placed him. He didn't come to impose, but to remind. The liturgy is heaven on earth. And when we return to the altar with reverence, all falls into place. Sarah's mission is a call to all. It's an invitation for every faithful to ask, are we truly worshipping? Are we finding God in Mass? In a letter to seminarians, he wrote, "Don't be original, be faithful. Novelty fades, truth endures." Those words echo as a motto for today's church. Less noise, more God. Less haste, more eternity. Leo XIV knows he won't see all this mission's fruits, but he's planting seeds. And Sarah, his life marked by the cross, is the perfect sower. As long as men like him are willing to kneel, the church will never lose its soul. And in the altar's silence, the world will hear God's voice. I want your opinion. What do you think of this great news? If you love the Pope, subscribe to the channel, leave a support phrase in the comments, share this video with 5 loved ones in your life. See you tomorrow.